Well, hello again, race fans, and welcome to round 3 of 12. It's the US IndyCar League's California 190 right here at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California, a track that I personally am very familiar with. My name's Trevor Greenfield, and you are watching live, uninterrupted, flag-to-flag coverage of the US IndyCar League right here on VirtualRacing.Network. As we've been doing all season, we did it last season, we'll keep doing it forever as these drivers take to the track for 95 laps of action, 2 miles, and it's a high bank circuit with a lot of drafting and a lot of passing. But right now, they are headed out there onto the track. Let's see if we can get down trackside here and see if we can pick up some of the action as they begin their qualifying efforts today. On your screen there from the US IndyCar League blimp, we've got Howard Livingston, who's actually been having a fantastic start to his season. Couple of third place finishes in a row has put Howard up into championship contention this season. We've got a couple of new racers with us today. NPC Van Tongeren has joined the series. Fantastic to have him out there. Also having Don Day in the field today. Manuel Gomez Esteban is back. So we got a number of great drivers going to be in the field. Also see Matty Simpson lining up for today. David Worrell going to be in the field. But here's the driver on everyone's mind, has been for quite a while. It's Graham Bunyan, last season's champion. And continuing to get it done each and every week. Of course, last week it was not Graham Bunyan who took the win, though he did take the pole with a. Today he's on the pole at the moment with a 32.41 on that very first lap. Rick Kelbaugh now slotting into second. Mr. StickQuik getting in a great qualifying effort there, making it into second thus far. And we see Rick Lovison, who has climbed into fourth in the points, and we'll take a look at that in a minute, getting a great qualifying effort there in third as well. As I mentioned, Matty Simpson in the field. Here's Dan Ensch. Had to miss the race last week, but back today. Another attempt at another possible fuel save race, I'm sure. We watched Dan go around. His first lap was good enough for 7th with a 32.49. Currently sitting on pole, it is Graham Bunyan, 32.50. His last lap, a 32.41, was Graham Bunyan's best lap. And there, Dan Ensch gets a 32.49 on that. On his first lap, a 32.56 that time by David Strid, another Australian. We now have 3 in the field today. Strid working with Graham Bunyan frequently and also helping to supply setups, but Strid already now taking that pole position away from Bunyan on that first lap. It's something we are used to seeing here with David Strid when he's in the field. The time seemed to fall, and that's where Strid seems to be most comfortable, is right up at the top. Not faster on the second lap. Not a surprise there. Most drivers not going to be faster on their second lap. And here, Iñigo Mardones, another driver that has raced well, finished well, racing for Necki Racing Team. And one of our 2 Spanish drivers in the field today with Manuel Gomez Esteban as well. So Iñigo with a great qualifying effort here, starting 5th, and Strid managing to steal that pole position there from Graham Bunyan. One of the few that can do it, but actually, qualifying, it's a heck of an accomplishment for these drivers to have gotten in a great qualifying effort, as we see David Worrell now slotting up into the 5th spot. Yeah, it's a great thing to qualify well here, but to be honest with you, qualifying does not really mean too much. It's one of those things where, you gotta draft a lot in this race. It's more than likely going to be what they call a draft lock race, where nobody can really go off the front, and there's enough of a draft coming from behind that you should be able to stay in the draft the whole race. But that is the plan. And of course, things seldom go to plan, especially here in the US IndyCar League. Last week's winner, David Zaleski, not doing too well, qualifying 14th. And so that will not be a great starting position for him. But as I just mentioned, doesn't really matter too much this race. Let's go ahead and take a look at where they qualified officially. And there we go. It's, as I mentioned, David Strid, no problems at all, taking that pole position from Graham Bunyan. And then Richard Kelbaugh going to be starting on the second row. Mr. StickQuik going to be outside of him will be Rick Lovison. And again, great start to his season. We'll take a look at the points here in just a minute. David Worrell going to be starting on row 3 next to Iñigo Mardones. Again, these are two drivers you really can't count out of the overall race win picture. They could be there at the end. And so then starting on row 4, it's going to be Howard Livingston. He's already had 2 podium positions. Will he do it again? That is the question for the Care Camps driver. Starting outside will be Mike West. Last season, he won a race. We look forward to seeing that kind of pace come back from Mike West, teammate to Graham Bunyan. So you know that Mike knows his way around and certainly gets all kinds of great tidbits in his ear from Graham. So possibly they could work together, maintain the front of this race. We'll find out. MPC Van Tongeren making a debut here on VirtualRacing.Network, at least for Season 12. So jumping in there in the 5th row alongside Dan Ensch. Dan has been season contending driver for a number of seasons up there to get the championship. But this season not starting off so great. Going to try to get back into that championship hunt. Matty Simpson, very fast driver. Look for him at the end of the day to be much further forward. Manuel Gomez Esteban, another driver that had a lot of great success at the end of season 11. He'll be coming forward. Don Day, brand new to the series. Great to have him on board. And Don had to miss last week's race. He actually plays in his church band. And of course, you know, certain things come before other things. And so, of course, that taking precedent last week, but he did not do that this week. So we're glad to have him joining us, one of the racers that you see in iRacing official races quite frequently. David Zaleski, last week's winner, not getting in the type of qualifying time he'd like, nor Jason Lowe. Lowe has got a lot of room to rebound. Will Stearns also down in the order, and James Kennedy as well. So we've got a nice full field of 17 here today. David Strigg going to be taking us to the green flag momentarily as they line up for today's race. Of course, this race and all races brought to you by StickQuik. Pleasure to have them on board as the partner for US IndyCar League. Go to stickquick.com and check out more of what they do. We'll get a chance to talk about them in a minute. But in the meantime, it is David Strid leading us to the green flag here in Fontana, California for the California 190. And you can see they're already side by side a little bit further back. This battle happening already between Rick Lovison. Rick Kelbaugh now moving up into 3rd spot. Rick Lovison and David Worrell, Iñigo Mardones battling it out for 4th. It's kind of starting to settle down already as the drivers get used to these cars coming up to speed at over 200 miles an hour here. As I mentioned, I've been here a number of years. Never quite seen the crowds look like that, but standing room only here in Fontana for the US IndyCar League, and it is great to have you with us. So we've got your running order top 5: David Strid, Graham Bunyan, Rick Lovison, Iñigo Mardones, David Worrell, Rick Kelbaugh now dropping back into the clutches of Howard Livingston. This on board from Livingston. Look out the front of that rig. You can see Mike West flying by on the outside, and now Matty Simpson going to take a look down the inside. Possibly going to pull off that pass on Howard Livingston. And there you go. You see Matty Simpson getting by Howard. Howard not done yet. We're going to see a lot of this side-by-side battling and back-and-forth action with a lot of drafting today. As I mentioned, fuel saving possibly going to be on some of these drivers' radar. One of the new rules in the series, cutting down on the fuel size, on the fuel tank size to try to cut down on the amount of fuel saving, but it's practically impossible thing to do. Well, David Strid leads us here as we start lap 5. Graham Bunyan in tow and Rick Lovison showing very well, hanging in third place right now in the Berkshire Resort machine. And just behind, it's Iñigo Mardones. That pink, black, and gray 666 machine. Not sure what that number means to Iñigo, but it's bringing him good luck right now. He's up 2 spots. David Worrell in 5th spot. Moving forward along with Matty Simpson. David actually qualified there in 5th, but Matty 6th place at the moment and pulling right up on the back of David Worrell. Matty looking to the outside, now looking to the inside. And he'll go by, going through the corner. These drivers going to be dealing with a little bit of aggression in terms of trying to keep up with that lead group. You don't want to slip further than 2 seconds back. And right now, Matty Simpson is just off of that pace. As we look back, you can see it's a long ways back from Iñigo Mardones back to Matty Simpson. It's now falling over 2 seconds. So as I mentioned, this is a big concern should this stay green. And of course, the US IndyCar League, well known for staying clean and green for a lot of these stints. This drivers racing with a good deal of caution and respect out there, trying to give each other a little bit of space, but still race hard. Mardones now on the outside of Rick Lovison. Lovison hanging in there, defending the inside, but I think Mardones has got him beat. There he goes by on the outside. So move Mardones up into 3rd. An all non-United States podium at the moment. It's David Strid and Graham Bunyan, the Australians, leading Spaniard Iñigo Mardones. Now Mardones has slipped a full second back. We'll have to see if Mardones can reel his way back up to the front. I am seeing that Matty Simpson is now, with that little bit of battling between Lovison and Mardones, does look like Matty Simpson is starting to claw back that lead. There you can see on board. We can show you there your roll bar camera, but we also have this new camera, our visor cam. Gives you the driver's eye view as Matty Simpson tries to pilot that very familiar yellow liveried machine. His Dallara IndyCar. And he tries to catch back up. Just 1.1 seconds now, that gap up to Rick Lovison. Look out the back of Matty's car. And you see that Mike West now taking up the 6th spot. As we can see a number of drivers perhaps starting to struggle or perhaps trying to do some extra fuel saving. Mike West now in 6th. He's up a couple of spots, but David Worrell has dropped down a couple of spots, now shown in 7th. And again, starting to drift back. He's 1.4 seconds back now, David Worrell, from Mike West. And again, you just don't want to see that go much further than that. So we take a look back at the front, and it is still none other than David Strid who leads Graham Bunyan. Strid and Bunyan content to sit nose to tail, as Iñigo Mardones not very far back there. We'll keep watch on that because Mardones has kind of reeled in these drivers and continues to do so with that extreme draft, making a charge forward. And this is exactly the type of effort that we have seen out of Iñigo Mardones in the past, where he can somehow manage to get a little bit more than the other drivers out of that car in the middle of a stint and be able to march his way forward. So whether he's doing that by using up all of his equipment early in the stint or not is the question. We'll just have to wait and see as the drivers continue around and get ready to make their first stops of the day. So no cautions yet as we get ready to go on to lap 15. Over 220 miles an hour here. 221 apparently according to our software, which is not totally accurate, but it's close enough. These drivers, again, having to hold, you know, you got to hold your line, of course, but you got to plan for what you're going to do with that line as the tires start to wear, as drivers start to make attacks from midfield. So we see Iñigo Mardones down just 0.6 of a second, closing up on these two. Will this continue to be the Strid and Bunyan show at the front, or will we have another driver join that battle? That is the question we'll find out soon enough. We watch these drivers continue here on lap 16. You see Mardones starting to creep into the picture there. As they head down into turn one again, now you can see Mardones has officially crept in. It's not long now before he's up in this battle. So Mardones has climbed back into this fight. Matty Simpson now 1.5 seconds back from Mardones. So Mardones is slowly towing some of these drivers forward and helping them to stay in touch with the leaders. Otherwise, it looks like it was going to be Strid and Bunyan just walking right off the front of this thing. So Matty Simpson, and I said before it couldn't happen. Obviously, it is happening. And I don't know, this is a fixed setup. This is a fixed setup series. Hard to tell what settings everybody was in to start with, but obviously quite a few drivers struggling. And Rick Lovison here did start in fourth, has dropped back a spot, but still hanging in that top 5 position. The Berkshire Machine looking to get a top finish this season again, and duplicate that podium finish at the end of season 11 for Rick. So I'm sure now that the summer rush is over at the resort, Rick's ready to dive in and get a little bit of a championship run going. In the meantime, he's hanging in there just a second back now from Matty Simpson. So we'll see if we climb forward even more here as we go forward. It's Mike West now. See if we can get the track map up there. I know in another broadcast we've got a viewer that loves that track map. Try to keep it up there so you can see where your favorite drivers are at. Unfortunately, you do see that Will Stearns is in the pits, and we have that he entered pit lane. Looks like he's still in the pits, perhaps having an issue early on and deciding to come in early. And it appears as though he's exited the race, so I'm not sure what happened there. We don't really have any sort of a note of a crash, an incident, or anything along those lines, but nevertheless, Will Stearns dropping out, unfortunately, from today's race. NPC Van Tongeren dropping back a long ways from his starting position, now finding himself back there in 16th, also suffering issues today. Again, we just did not get any sort of a notification as to any sort of a problem that Tongeren may have had. So I wish I could tell you what happened, but yeah, I'm not really sure what put him back there. Just maybe struggling. You know, this is not easy to do, and we have David Worrell having a moment there. Entering the pits, so Worrell coming down now, having some difficulty there getting onto pit lane, but getting it straightened out. So we look at David Zaleski, last week's winner, struggling a little bit today in qualifying, 14th, but has made up 7 spots thus far. So looking at 7th place, and again, trying to do whatever he can to stay up in that championship hunt. It's something that we had identified early on, that Zaleski is definitely capable of staying up there and racing with these champions, but consistency week in and week out is kind of the thing that everybody's got to fight for. So we can see Zaleski continuing to have the type of pace he's had. So we see, I believe that was Mike West peeling off there, and it was indeed Mike West heading for the pits, as well as David Strid and Matty Simpson. So we see these drivers now heading down pit lane as the rest continue to circulate. Graham Bunyan now inheriting the lead, with Iñigo Mardones just behind. Now, one thing that Graham has not yet done is led in today's race, and there are some bonus points that are available, not only for leading, but then also leading the most laps. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not, as David Zaleski here makes his way down to pit lane, it'll be interesting to see whether Graham tries to keep Iñigo Mardones behind him. Obviously, Graham, having been in that fuel-saving position behind David Strid, is now in a position, and he goes a little bit long, but he manages to get into the pits there and get that thing slowed up nice and good. Get it slowed up for that line, because if you go too fast past it, they'll ding you and make you wait on pit lane, and that has caught so many people out this season. So currently Bunyan, Lovison, Howard Livingston, Richard Kelbaugh, and Don Day on pit road. That leaves Iñigo Mardones, who I believe right now is going to bring it down into the pits. Let's watch this pit entry. Pretty solid. No real lockup, so great pit in by Iñigo, and it was a really nice exit off of the corner. So kind of trying to make some maximum time there. And that will give over the lead to Jason Lowe. Driver we haven't been talking about very much today, but we typically do because he's so fast. Of course, 3-time champion of the series. Lost it last season to Graham Bunyan. And Lowe is on that list, probably at the top of that list of those drivers that have the pace to challenge the likes of Bunyan and Strid on a daily, weekly basis, but struggling with that consistency that Graham Bunyan seems to find. And so Lowe is, he's had some difficult finishes already this season, and he's gonna, just like Dan Ensch and a number of these drivers, Dan Ensch now pitting from 3rd position, by the way, leaving Jason Lowe, Manuel Gomez Esteban as your only 2 leaders who have not yet pitted. There's also NPC Van Tongeren pitting. So Lowe now heading to pit lane. And again, another one of those things that has caught out Lowe has been the pit entry procedure. It's just one of those things that it's hard to get exactly right. We saw Graham Bunyan struggle with it even last season. And, the tires are cold. As I say that, Gomez here, Super Mango sponsored livery car. Gomez with a brand new paint job this season. First time that we have seen him in competition with us. And looking good out there, Gomez is. Good pit stop. Back underway. So, as I mentioned, Gomez is one of those drivers that we really look forward to seeing up in the top 5. He's got an excellent pace that just keeps getting a little bit better each time out. Maybe just trying to find that little bit of consistent thread week in and week out that will help him get up there and into the fight for the race and the championship. But after that pit stop cycle, it is Graham Bunyan who retakes the lead with Iñigo Mardones. As I mentioned, Iñigo with a fantastic in and out of the pits, taking over second ahead of David Strid. Now, it's not by much, so it's not like he broke the toe to Mardones, and that Mardones broke the toe to Strid, but Strid now is 1.3 seconds back. So the question really is what these drivers are doing as far as fuel saving. And we know that Strid was out there in the lead in the last stint for the majority of it. He had to come in 2 laps earlier than Graham Bunyan. So that's the effect of being out there in the front and just breaking the air for everyone else, as everyone else, just like following a semi down the road, everyone else gets a break from the air hitting the front of their cars, and they get a little bit of a fuel advantage. As you see, Iñigo Mardones making his way now to the outside, trying to take that lead away from Graham Bunyan, perhaps sensing that this is a moment where he doesn't have David Strid right behind. He can maybe take a look at making that pass work. As we look out the left side of that cockpit of the Dallara IR-18. Not easy to get by Graham Bunyan, that is for sure. Unfortunately, we have another note here. We go on board with Rick Lovison. What's happened with Rick? Not sure. Having some blinking issues. Guess he's back and okay. We just kind of got a bit of an errant message there. We go back here to this battle between Mardones and Bunyan. Didn't know that we'd see it, but we've got it. It's a battle for first, and Mardones trying to keep Bunyan honest here. Strid now dropping over 2 seconds back again. He's going to have to watch that. He does not want to lose that lead pack. And Bunyan giving up the lead there to Mardones. Now, Bunyan, I've seen this before, and Bunyan does not, as you can see there, he's going to try to make that pass again. He does not want to give up that lead. There's rival strategies here. There's a couple of things at play. One is bonus points for leading the most laps. That's one. 2, as you see, Mardones now going to the inside again, side by side, and Mardones taking that position. So the second thing would be, of course, fuel saving for this particular race. So if you're sitting in second, you are going to get that fuel saving advantage. But the third thing is if you're in clean air as the leader, you essentially control the race. And from so many driver standpoints, they want that clean air control of the race. And you can see they're going at it hot and heavy here on lap 37. The California 190 presented by StickQuik. You're getting to see a battle, and Graham Bunyan's actually having to work for this one. Some fun stuff watching these two swap positions. And I've been in this position myself where it just makes sense. Wow, Iñigo struggling with that push coming off the rear end of the Bunyan's machine as he exits the corner. Kind of went up a little high there on exit of 2. Now gathers it back up. We'll watch him try to line up Bunyan for a run. Thought better of it. So Bunyan staying in the lead for the moment, as Mardones now perhaps trying to get together a big old run. Gonna have to back out of that one though. So it's all about timing if you want to make that pass. Can't afford to drop back too far, otherwise you won't get that run into the corner that you need. But having been in this position, I can just tell you that sometimes if you're not an IndyCar racer on iRacing, you know, this might be informative. Those of you who are IndyCar racers, I think you know what I mean. As we see Mardones make his move again. Fun stuff here on VirtualRacing.Network as these two swap the draft, swap the lead here, and start to break away from David Strid. So as I was, you know, what I'm saying is that these cars eventually, the way that they start really wearing the tires and you find where you want to run. I want to run the inside. I want to run the outside. Maybe this setup feels nice and balanced. You can run either place. When you figure that out and you see how the car is running and how it wants to do in the draft, sometimes it just makes sense to keep making these passes. Like, it's the car wants to pass. So unless you're lifting your foot purposefully to save draft, or to save fuel, excuse me, in that draft, it's just easier to keep making passes lap in and lap out. Now, sometimes that does wear the tires more, so, you know, it's something that these drivers really have to feel out and try and understand. Now, this is your race starting to unfold here as David Strid has fallen off the back. And again, this starts to look like a master play from the Necky Racing driver Iñigo Mardones, because what has happened here is it looked like Strid and Bunyan had this one kind of figured out in the beginning, and they were starting to run off the front. But because Iñigo Mardones has been able to come through the field, as we watch Matty Simpson and Mike West now challenging each other for fourth, Mike West just coming through, because Bunyan and Strid were running off the front of this thing, it's actually amazing because Mardones going up there and challenging Bunyan has forced Bunyan's hand, and if Bunyan was planning to just lead Strid around this stint, they can't play that game now because Mardones is willing to take that lead and take the chance of going up there. So it's kind of ruined whatever game that Bunyan and Strid were trying to work on at the time. And so now we're looking here at the fourth spot as Mike West and Matty Simpson are swapping positions. So this is also a very valid way to come through the field, swapping draft as it's known. And usually you find drivers that are the same team working together to do that. But they'll tend to pass each other in very advantageous ways where neither driver loses much time and they gain a lot from the slingshotting procedure. So we see Matty Simpson now going to fourth place and Mike West now slotting back into fifth. So if these drivers work together, for example, let's see what they do across the line this time by. So you see West going by again. So a 32.47 for Mike West and a 32.54 for Matty Simpson. And that is roughly competitive with the leaders at the moment, perhaps a tiny bit faster. So executed well, this is a strategy that could actually catch you back up to the leaders. But of course, the leaders themselves embroiled in a battle here as we look back from Graham Bunyan. Doesn't look like Mardones wants to challenge for that lead again, but we watch on to see when he'll make his next lunge forward. So very interesting race happening here at the moment. We are now over halfway into this race. Graham Bunyan now, as I said that, I guess we were legit now over halfway into this race. I guess at the exact time I was saying that, we were not quite, but now we are 48 laps into this, or starting on our 48th lap here. We've got Graham Bunyan, the Australian, leading Spaniard Iñigo Mardones, with Australia David Strid in third, Mike West in fourth, and breaking up the Australian juggernaut starting to form at the front of this field as Matty Simpson gets by again. That's Mike West getting by again, but with Matty Simpson getting by, that'll be three of the top four drivers in the from Australia in the top four. But we see David Strid having to pit again early. So once again, you know, let me explain what's going on with David Strid. So Strid, of course, was leading the race in the very beginning, and led from pole, and with Bunyan in tow, basically he cut the air for Bunyan the entire first stint. Having to stop 2 laps early, Strid was never really able to pick up the draft of Bunyan and Mardones. And so by nature of that, once he fell back a little bit and was too far off of the back of the draft, he was essentially running in clean air by himself, just the same as Graham Bunyan is doing, just the same as anyone else is doing. So that's why I'm saying the strategy for Strid to possibly be able to sit back and fuel save and swap with Graham Bunyan has been absolutely eradicated by this guy right here, Iñigo Mardones, deciding to make his move and make this an honest race here with Graham Bunyan. So there, Graham Bunyan now pulling onto pit road. Saw a little lock up, but Bunyan getting it down to speed, it looks like, in time there. So Mardones takes over the lead. We've got Zaleski, Bunyan, we watch them come down into the pits. Zaleski, Bunyan, Lovison, all in the pits now. There's Zaleski receiving service. Here is Lovison about to hit his pit stall. And Zaleski back underway. So that puts Mardones back in charge, or leaves him in charge here as he continues to head around. Has not yet stopped in for his second stop, so definitely saving some fuel as he's now going to make his way onto pit lane. That is part of the plan for Iñigo Mardones to get that extra lap out of that stint. One more than Graham Bunyan could pay dividends at the end of this one, but we don't know quite yet. Jason Lowe now taking over the lead with Mardones coming in. There was about a 12-second gap between the two, so Bunyan here has now fallen back to 8th with that pit stop, but we'll see where he slots back out as Mardones continues his pit stop. Mardones still not off of pit lane yet. I think he must have had a speeding penalty, though it did not look like it. It looks like Mardones having to hold for a penalty. This is devastating to Mardones' race, and that will effectively put him down a lap by the time this is all over. And what an unfortunate set of circumstances. But I mentioned it before, and you can see Jason Lowe here taking a very aggressive line coming in, and it looks like he did manage to get it woed up in time. So Lowe now pitting from the lead. That gives over the lead to Manuel Gomez Esteban. Gomez Esteban able to go longer than anybody else, including Dan Ensch, which is kind of surprising. Haven't got much of a chance to call Dan Ensch's name, but he's currently running down in 12th spot. We'll see again how this all pans out. Gomez and Esteban yet to make his second pit stop, but cleverly getting a little bit of extra screen time here as he brings it down into the pits. And there you go. Looks like he got it down plenty of time. So that will, of course, give the lead back over to Graham Bunyan. As we take a look at him going by David Worrell from one of our drone cameras circulating around the track, getting you closer to the action than you've ever gotten before, that's for sure. You can imagine how much money we had to pay to have this drone pilot hired for this race, but it is Graham Bunyan ahead by 3 seconds over David Strid. This race has already now changed complexion a couple of times. Try to take you through where we're at as everybody has now made their pit stops. Graham Bunyan was being led by David Strid in the first stint. Strid having to come in a couple laps earlier than everyone else, then found himself in the second stint falling off the back as a hard-charging Iñigo Mardones came forward, and Mardones managed to make it a show for quite a while, swapping draft and swapping the lead with Graham Bunyan, but unfortunately Mardones there just suffering from what appears to be a speeding violation on pit road entry, having to hold and now shown down a lap, but only 1 lap at the moment. So should we have a caution at an advantageous time, Mardones will probably be able to get that lap back. But let's go ahead and go through the field. It's Bunyan up by over 3 seconds, actually now just under 3 seconds, 2.9 seconds over David Strid. Continues to go around with that very familiar Team Penske paint job. And running third, Graham Bunyan's teammate, Mike West. Mike from just over the hill to me over in Yakima. I'm in the Seattle area, so fellow Washingtonian doing battle out there for us Washington residents. Appreciate it. You got my pennant hanging here in the studios for sure, Mike. But Matty Simpson giving him all he can handle at the moment. These two embroiled in a pretty good battle here for third spot. You see Matty there in the yellow submarine paint job. As I mentioned, super famous paint job. I think Rick Mears making it perhaps the most famous, but Helio Castroneves recently and a couple of other drivers carrying that paint job. So always cool to see it. Unfortunately, due to copyright and trademark laws, we're kind of in a weird gray area when we use trading paints like this. So, you know, as long as there's nobody pointing anything out about it, I guess we're okay to continue. And the real people that win in that scenario are, of course, the fans, and of course the drivers, as they get to put whatever paint job they want on their car. So we look at this battle going on here for third spot. Who will it be for the final podium position? That is the question, as the top two between Graham Bunyan and David Strid are still separated by a couple of seconds. So another battle happening just behind. We've got David Zaleski, and that is Iñigo Mardones just in front. So Zaleski racing with a pretty fast driver there in Mardones, but I think he's going to hope that Mardones can maybe tow him up to the front, and that's really Mardones is, I mean, if this stays green, the only hope that Mardones possibly has at getting his lap back is to drive past everybody and go off the front. Now, he can't fully go off the front, so what he would do is probably park his car at the front in the lead if he can, and just pray that the caution comes out. Of course, I don't know. Well, I'll just leave that joke alone for the moment. David Zaleski is actually in 5th spot, up 9 positions, and Dave's doing exactly what he's got to do to stay in this championship fight. If you're not the fastest at a particular track, there's only one thing you really can do, and that's just try to get that top 5 position each and every week. Now, Jason Lowe has drifted quite a ways back from David Zaleski. He's just not able to hang the pace out there like he does usually week in and week out. But Lowe in 6th has not made that characteristic mistake that we've seen out of him in a few of the races. Don't think I'm being critical. The mirror points both ways, honestly. I make those mistakes all the time. But they're so easy to do, as you see Jason Lowe here racing with James Kennedy just behind. And Kennedy racing with new livery here. Didn't talk about him beforehand, but Kennedy is part of that very small group that has been able to win here in the last couple of seasons. And we look forward to seeing Kennedy right back up there in the front. He's trying to do that. He's climbed 10 spots today, up in 7th, hanging with Jason Lowe, so in good company. But these two drivers are going to have to do some real work if they're going to catch back up 4 seconds to David Zaleski and then have any shot at the podium. We jump back to Rick Lovison. He was up in 3rd to start this race, now back in familiar territory with Howard Livingston. These two are essentially in the middle of the pack and trying to work perhaps together again to trade draft and go back forward. But Lovison, you know, again, it's all about, you know, in the end, if there's 15 drivers running, you want to finish in the top 10. And that's just where that's at. You don't want to finish outside the top 10. Finishing outside the top 10 is not going to be good for the championship. That is for sure. You won't get, you know, you just won't get the points that you need to stay in the championship hunt. So in a lot of ways, running back in 7th, 8th, 9th, that's going to keep you in the championship hunt. It may seem like, oh, we're running mid-pack, oh, we're not up in the top 3, we can't, you know, we can't necessarily climb the ladder, but that's not true. Consistency and consistently finishing in the top 2/3 of the pack and trying to get up into that top third is where it's at. And so, you know, these two drivers, I know Livingston already having 2 podium finishes this season. You just know that these two drivers are doing everything they can to get that top 5, and I'm sure Livingston would love to make it 3 for 3. But on some days like this, where the car's just maybe not quite good enough to get that top 5, maybe you can't find that extra little, you know, couple of hundredths of a second that other drivers can find. Well, just don't make those mistakes that take you back to 11th or 12th or 13th position or take you out of the race. Don't, you know, if you want to stay in, you got to stay consistent. And these drivers, I say that, but these drivers have been racing for quite a while. Howard Livingston, we actually saw over in our Indy Fix broadcast that we did. So those of you that don't know, we are now broadcasting the official Indy Fixed, iRacing Indy Fixed, IndyCar Series Fixed. We are broadcasting that on Thursdays, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the videos and such, and you'll get further notifications of that going forward. But essentially, yeah, it's open to anybody to show up, Top Split Racing. And we can see David Stritt also now making his way into the pits. We showed David Zaleski there, and now Jason Lowe into the pits as well. So the lead now taken over by Graham Bunyan. What he was in the lead before, now still in the lead, but over 9.5 seconds gap on second place at the moment. His teammate Mike West. Now Mike West As I said, his mirror, well, let's take a look on board with Mike West for a moment. And, well, you can see, there it is. In fact, that's what you see just to the right there. A big yellow submarine dodging in and out of mirrors. And that is what you've got to look for if you're Mike West. Is he going to pass from the outside, the inside, as Mike West now getting around David Strid as Strid exits out onto the track. He's a lap down, and now Bunyan making his way into the pits. Looks like he hit the speed limiter okay. So just 22 laps remaining. Bunyan pitting from the lead. That turns over the lead to his teammate Mike West, who's climbed 7 spots thus far to take over that lead. Matty Simpson still hanging on there on his quarter panel. Well, I guess they don't really have quarter panels in these cars, but hanging on in his right rear tire. I was mentioning cars driving door handle to door handle. Of course, none of these cars having door handles. But Mike West pulling into the pits, and Matty Simpson making a very late entry to the pits and overtaking Mike West on entry to the pits. What a fantastic move. He went so deep on entry. He just really surprised Mike West. Mike taking a much more straight line off of the corner, very similar to Jason Lowe. There we look out the over the front of the aero screen of this Dewara IR-18 for Matty Simpson, getting ready to gun it as they drop him. And there is the news. Matty Simpson serving the penalty for exceeding the pit lane speed. And that will cost him just the same as it cost Iñigo Mardones. We talk about mistakes, and that's one you can't afford to make, as we see Howard Livingston now taking over the lead. And Dan Ensch just behind. 19 laps to go, so we're going to find out right now whether these drivers have managed to do anything to save enough fuel to get this undercut and possibly chop a couple of seconds off of their pit stop. Don Day, another driver we haven't mentioned much, but he's been racing hard, finds himself up in third at the moment. Having a hard day of racing out there. But he's managed to stay out there, still not having made that third and final stop of the day. Iñigo Mardones also into the pits for his final stop. Now we'll watch Don enter the pit lane and see if he can get it right. Once again, taking a little bit more of a direct approach. It's kind of the NASCAR style approach that we've seen evolved over the years, but that was something else to watch with Matty Simpson. That is something that, I'm not going to lie. As a racer, I'm going to try to copy that maneuver myself. I'm going to really look into that for pitting in here at California Speedway. Sorry, Auto Club Speedway. I don't really get paid to call it Auto Club Speedway, but I've known it as California Speedway. Howard Livingston and Dan Ensch now just behind, making his way into the pits. So this is their final stop, and it will give up the lead to Manuel Gomez Esteban. He's changed colors. He's now in purple and white. Charging around the track. Gomez Esteban outlasting the others on that fuel stint. And the yellow is out. I'm not sure. It may be... I don't have a note on who it is. Saw that Don Day got past. It's not Dan Ensch. Dan Ensch just leaving the pits. So who will this hurt and who will this help? Well, this will help Gomez Esteban, who did stay out, and he will not go down a lap once this cycles through. We'll have to see how this works out. MPC Van Tongeren also did not yet make his pit stop, so both of those drivers will get a chance to make their stop, and then they will retain staying on the lead lap. One driver that Well, we'll find out whether Iñigo Mardones can get his lead back. We'll see where the drivers are positioned. In the meantime, it is time, finally. I was hoping we'd get a chance to do this. But of course, this series is presented by StickQuik. You may have heard about it 100 times by now, but it doesn't change how cool it is. In fact, for me, it gets cooler every single day because StickQuik can be used by professional and weekend mechanics, gardeners, RV enthusiasts, the do-it-yourselfer, teachers, students, hobbyists, technicians, artists. I mean, anybody who cooks, uses any sort of tool or implements of any kind. The product will help them organize and be more efficient and save time. You can see exactly what it does. You know, it's stretchy, can stretch up to twice the size. It's got magnetic built into it. It's long-lasting silicone, going to be super durable. I love mine. You see the green on the screen there. That's the color I got. But you can see all the different colors you can get it in. Comes in 3 different sizes as well. So it will fit anything you need it for. I see a lot of ladies' makeup featured. Lipstick, lip gloss, lip liner. If there's a lady in your life who could use this to stick to, say, maybe a metal mirror in their bathroom, that might be a cool idea as a gift. So, or if you know somebody who's got a cool shop and needs this for their shop, that's a cool gift idea too. Christmas coming up pretty soon. So you might head over to StickQuik.com, order yourself 1, 2, or 3 of those. It will, you believe me, you'll be happy that you did. And make sure to tell them that Trevor sent you, and you won't get any discount at all. Actually, no. Let them know that US IndyCar League sent you over there, and I'm sure they'll make you happy. So, speaking of StickQuik, Mr. StickQuik, Rick Kelbaugh, on the lead lap here. And Rick is actually at the front end of this. Is he on the lead lap? This is very interesting because I'm showing my timing and scoring software is showing Graham Bunyan in the lead. And then, okay, so timing and scoring is now clarifying. Rick Kelbaugh getting the wave around. Don Day now getting the wave around, getting their laps back. And so I don't think that's going to give Iñigo Mardones, in fact, it does not give Iñigo Mardones his lap back. Just the wrong place at the wrong time. But we do have a number of drivers. This actually really hurts Matty Simpson as well, who had that penalty. So Simpson and Mardones caught out by that penalty for speeding on pit road. And as such, now they find themselves a lap down and won't get that lap back unless we go caution again before the end of this one. Now, of course, that's entirely possible. As the lights are out on the pace car, we get ready to go. What was the weather today? Well, it's always 78 to start on the ambient. That's how we do it here in the US IndyCar League. But 94 on track and a little warm. Not too bad. Not going to affect these tires too much today, but 2 mile an hour cross breeze, not really much of an effect either. Beautiful day. Would have loved to be at the track in real life. Last time I was here, Tony Kanaan won, and I got to see it live from next to his pit box, but it was like 100 degrees, and people were fainting from the water. Not so today. The virtual stands are filled, as you can see here from overhead. Graham Bunyan leads us back to the green flag for one more time of racing here at Auto Club Speedway. David Strid just behind, starting to come up to speed in that draft. Will he take the lead? Will he take this win? He's in position to do it now. And Strid moves to the front with Bunyan now slotting into third. We've got Mike West in fourth. I'm sorry, into third, excuse me. And that is David Worrell trying to get his lap back. Jason Lowe is now up into the potential to be on the podium. It happens that fast, just due to the yellows. Will we see it? That is the question. We look a little bit wider as there's some more action happening a little bit further back. Bunyan now moves ahead of Strid. Mike West now trying to make that challenge down to the inside of Jason Lowe through turn number 4. Not able to get it done. Here comes Matty Simpson from behind trying to get that lap back, but he will have a really difficult time of doing that at this point. 10 laps to go here for now your leader, David Strid. James Kennedy not far back, and neither is Rick Lovison. Dan Ensch now also part of this fight, but seems like the only drivers with enough pace right now to get this win done is going to be Graham Bunyan and David Strid, unless Lowe can climb back from 1.8 seconds. It is possible. Just 9 laps to go, and it's Graham Bunyan leading David Strid and Jason Lowe, Mike West, and James Kennedy, your top 5. You see, it's anybody's battle there for third place coming up. And Strid now moves to the outside of Graham Bunyan. Nope, they're back nose to tail, and that's how they started the race, although it was Strid in front of Bunyan. Now it's Strid's chance to shadow Bunyan, and he's going to try to go back to the front. These two working to swap draft and perhaps take away that opportunity from Jason Lowe, who now has Mike West really right all over the back of him. Trying to shake Mike West a little bit. You see David Worrell there coming into the picture. He's down low. I think Worrell's going to need to pit. Matty Simpson also now shown in the pits, so not sure what happened there, but Mike West goes sailing by Jason Lowe down into turn 1. And then Mike West gets it sideways, drifts up the track and right into the path of Jason Lowe as we're watching, collecting a couple of cars in the process. We see them, they're still spinning. Was that Don Day? Don Day getting involved in that wreck as well. Mardones brings it down to a halt, and this will bring out our second caution with just 6 laps to go. Unfortunately, ruining some drivers' days here right at the very end. I'm going to try to take a look at that. So Don Day had just gotten by Mike West, and then he gets clipped there. Let's see if we can figure that one out. Let's go back a moment and see if we can tell exactly what happened. So we jump overhead. It's a little too far. There you can see, maybe it was Don Day. Try to pause it and back it up for you. As it looks like Zaleski gets a little loose coming off of the corner and perhaps gets into Day. I'm going to have to try to back that up again. Our drone camera giving a really great close-up view, but not really able to tell. So let's see if we can see that one more time. So this was there, Don Day. It's still very difficult to tell. It looks like Day just gets into Zaleski. Multiple things happening there at the same time. So this was actually, if I stop it here and we take a look at where Mike West is, this incident has already happened. So I'm obviously getting a little confused here, but here we can see it truly was triggered by Mike West, who appears to go down and clip the apron. That sends him up the track and into the path of several cars. And then if we jump back to Don Day's point of view, actually, let's go to Zaleski and we can see, we can get there. Zaleski coming off the corner, perhaps just trying to avoid a little bit of that wreck. And if he had continued on, it looks like he would have pretty much plowed into one of these two cars. But unfortunately, bringing it back to the left, that took out Don Day. And so we go back to the live picture now as Graham Bunyan is at the front of this field burning off some fuel. We're going to do one more lap here, at least under the pace car. So we are under caution for an incident that has taken out several drivers. Unfortunately for Iñigo Mardones, with nobody else needing to pit, he will not get his lap back. So that will leave the field as it is. Graham Bunyan, David Strid, and James Kennedy, your top three. Rick Lovison just outside, back into the fourth spot. That's where he started. Howard Livingston now in fifth. Dan Ensch in sixth. Manuel Gomez-Esteban will restart in seventh. David Zaleski in eighth, and MPC Van Tongeren right where he qualified in ninth. Rick Kelbaugh, Mr. StickQuik, there in 10th. So we get going again, and it looks like, unfortunately, Jason Lowe still stuck on pit road with repairs, and that will take him out of contention for today's race. Mike West somehow able to get that car repaired and back out there very quickly, but still losing a lap in the process. Go back to Graham Bunyan, who will lead us back to green once again. He's got a lot of experience doing that at this point. And looking back, will he get the jump on David Strid as he has done? It's possible, but doesn't really matter too much. Again, that draft pretty powerful. But with just 3 laps to go as we cross that start-finish stripe, it will be difficult to use the draft to come from too far back. And we can see we're green here again with just 3 to go. And it's Graham Bunyan, your leader, David Strid in second, and James Kennedy in third at the moment. Rick Lovison dropping back just a little bit there, and you see Jason Lowe now running slowly out of the pits, just trying to get a few laps as he's down on the apron. And there goes David Strid by in turn number 3. Strid back to the lead. So Strid now leading Bunyan with David Worrell just behind. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I mistook that for David Worrell. That's actually James Kennedy, who's now into that final podium position spot. Rick Lovison in fourth. He'll be eyeing that, as well as Howard Livingston. Howard with renewed opportunity at 3 out of 3 to get a podium position. Kennedy now shown in third, but it's David Strid and Graham Bunyan who battle side by side. Now Strid with the lead, but Bunyan sizing him up again. These two side by side through turn number 1. It's the final lap. Bunyan to the lead on the outside. Looking forward. Can Strid do it this last time by? We'll find out. He looks to the left. Off the front of Strid's car, it's going to be a photo finish. And it looks like it's Graham Bunyan by a nose, hanging on to the win, taking that one from David Strid, with James Kennedy finishing in third, a close finish, and Rick Lovison making it into fourth. Howard Livingston ending up in fifth. David Zaleski in sixth. And Dan Ensch now bringing it home in seventh. I'm sure Dan will be just happy to get a finish out of this series. Been a little rough trying to get those top 10s. Rick Kelbaugh with an 8th place finish today. Manuel Gomez-Esteban did lead a couple of times, was up there. But it was, of course, Graham Bunyan who stole the show today, as he often does. What an amazing race from Graham. David Strid doing everything he could there to employ some tricks to get that win from Graham, but not able to do so. So we'll, while we have a moment There really was not enough time to do it earlier, but we see Graham Bunyan there making his mark on that AAA mark in the infield, putting down some awesome donuts for the fans. David Strid there alongside. Fans are cheering from the stands as these two Australians have now taken the top two steps of the podium. So you get a chance to see your overall results as these two party in the background. The California 190 presented by StickQuik, taken by Graham Bunyan. Second goes to David Strid, and third to James Kennedy, who has a great finish kind of coming out of nowhere, but last season he won a race. Not a surprise to see him up there on the podium. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with James this time. Rick Lovison in fourth, Howard Livingston fifth, Zaleski in sixth, backing up that race win last week. Struggled a little bit today, but he managed to get up there and do his championship some good, and you can see where everyone else has finished up. Quite a day here at Auto Club. It kind of finished the way that we might think it would, with a couple of drivers that had been together drafting all race long. Now, in our previous points, let's see if we can get that onto the screen. Be here just 1 second. So our previous points lined up like this. This was how it was coming into the race, with Graham Bunyan leading. Of course, he'll leave here with another win in that win column and some more points to his name. David Zaleski was in second. He'll climb, or he'll stay hopefully there in second with this finish. Depends on how many points Howard Livingston will secure from that fifth place finish. But Rick Lovison is in fourth in the points, and he finished fourth today, so look for Rick to stay in the same spot. Jason Lowe is going to be taking a little bit of a tumble in the points today, as will Iñigo Mardones, because of their issues. So we're going to get a chance to talk to some of our podium finishers from the race today. Take a look, see who's climbed out of their car and been able to join us in the booth. And I think pretty soon, hopefully, we'll get Graham Bunyan or David Strid in there, possibly James Kennedy. But at the moment, we do have, well, let's get Howard Livingston in here. Let's see if we can get him to... Well, we've got Jason Lowe with us, and then we'll get maybe Howard Livingston in again. He might be busy at the moment. But Jason, can you hear me on your side of the booth over there?
Yeah, Trevor, how are you today?
I'm doing just great, my friend. Unfortunately, you look like you were having a fantastic run there at the end. Just kind of take me through how it looked there from your perspective, that last incident with you racing with Mike West.
Mike and I were just racing as hard as we could for third. He got a little bit loose out of turn 2, and I had already committed to my arc, and I lifted and got on the brakes, but I carried myself right into him, unfortunately. We were racing as hard as we could for third. I can't blame the guy. He was doing what I would have done in the same situation. So, I mean, I know he certainly didn't mean for that to happen, and, I wish I could have avoided him, but we were both racing as hard as we could, and stuff like that happens. I was happy to be up in the front at the end. Didn't really have any pace at the start of the race. It took me about the first half of the race to figure out what the car wanted. Still was a third place car at best. I didn't have anything for the leaders, and unfortunately, it just didn't wash out in the end. But we'll just go on to next week and see what we can do.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the way you got to do it with the championship. And of course, Jason, you're 3-time series champion, so you know a little bit about this IndyCar iRacing thing. But yeah, you were up there. You look good at the end there. I mean, it's got to make you feel good that you were able to adjust the car, find some speed at the end. One of these races, you'll get that luck, and I'm sure we'll see you back on the podium here in US IndyCar League.
Well, I hope so. I try my best every week. I know what everybody here does. Thanks to StickQuik for sponsoring the league. We had a good turnout today, 17 drivers. Was real happy about that. And congratulations to Graham, as always, for teaching us another lesson.
Absolutely. Well, pleasure having you with us here, Jason, and we'll let you get back to the rest of your Sunday, and good luck with the rest of your season.
All right. Thank you, Trevor, and thanks, everybody, for watching.
And thank you as well. So Jason Lowe is the man to talk to if you've been watching and you want to become part of the US IndyCar League. See if you can take your shot at the Australians who appear to be dominating at the moment, Graham Bunyan and David Strid. If you want to do that, head on over to iRacing. I put the link down in the description, and you can sign up and also find out more information possibly for next season as well. But we also have some other drivers with us at the moment. Let's take a look at who we can snag for an interview. I think maybe we'll just have to move Mr. Livingston into our broadcast booth here. Hey, Howard, can you hear me?
Yes, I've got you.
All right. You're kind of sitting in the lobby. I just want to make sure you weren't in the middle of something with your other teammates or with anybody else, the Coconut Castaways, planning what you're going to be doing later this afternoon. Hey, Howard, you had, two different podiums to start in 2 races this season. And, you were running kind of in the middle of the pack. I wasn't sure what was going to happen today as far as you were concerned. But then you kind of moved up into the top 5. And all of a sudden, this started to look like maybe a championship top 5 kind of day for you. And that's exactly where you ended up. So you must feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, from where we started, I tell you, I really struggled the first stint getting the car dialed in. But then finally started coming to me, and we just kind of tried to keep our nose clean and stay with the pack.
So was that the plan pretty much today? Just kind of stay nose clean. And did you do any extra fuel saving? Were you trying to make a strategy based off of outlasting the other drivers, or were you having trouble with the setup? Maybe trying to find the speed of the leaders.
Yeah, definitely in the first stint, and I also was trying to save a little fuel too. But basically, I just it took me a while to get the car dialed in. Once we did at the end, it was running really good.
Well, Howard, we've got a couple of great tracks left on the schedule. Are you looking forward to Watkins Glen and a number of others that might be coming up soon?
Yeah, I just love the schedule that's coming up. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the best at road courses, but I love them. So I always look forward to those races.
Well, next week, Kansas, then Watkins Glen. And, we'll see if, Kansas, pretty familiar track to you. It's kind of D-shaped. That might work in your favor.
Yeah, I like that track a lot. And I think, you learn every single race things about the setup and the car, and this one was a lesson learned for me. Wasn't aggressive enough early on on trying to dial the car in, which but lesson learned. And congrats to Graham, and just shout out to Graham. He is always just trying to help everybody. He's a great coach and a great team player, and just congrats to him. Well deserved as always.
Absolutely. Always great to have him in the field. He brings definitely a benchmark for everyone to aspire to. But Howard, you're doing the same with what you and the Coconut Castaways are doing with the care camps and trying to get that message out. And of course, we'll see them in a big way at the end of the season with the Indy race. Again, congratulations to you, top 5. Great championship day. We'll see what you can do in Kansas. All right.
Great. Thanks so much, Trevor. And thanks for the great job you do on the broadcast.
Absolutely.
Very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure, as always. Thank you, Howard, for stopping by. Good luck with the rest of your season. And that does bring us to our winner, because David Strid has probably gone to bed there in Australia, but not Graham Bunyan. He's a night owl, and he's probably feeling pretty good after this one. I can see him. He does possibly have a grin on his face. Hey, Graham, can you hear me in the booth?
Yeah, good to hear, Trevor, and thanks, Howard, for the kind words. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think it's a little difficult to get those kind words out of everybody because you beat the pants off of them every single week, it seems like, Graham. But there's got to be a little antagonizing, little difficulty there. But Graham, you're series champion, and today you got a couple of great battlers who were attacking you. You had David Strid, who took the pole. Of course, David very well. Took the pole, and he was kind of doing whatever he wanted on that first stint. You might have been working with him, but later on, he came back to challenge you. Iñigo Mardones giving you all you could handle there in the second stint. You had a couple of solid challenges for the lead, but you still ended up with the win. Championship form. You've done it again, Graham. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, look, firstly, congrats to Dave on I don't even know, a rocket ship of a qualifying time. That was great. I think I got onto the white and got a little bit slippery there, but no, that was an awesome time by Dave. Congrats to the podium as well. So Dave and James. Got to thank the strategist for our side of things, which is Adge. Doing the number crunching there on fuels. I had a ball terror of a first pit stop, so I think that's what got me there.
So, yes, your first pit stop, and then numerous drivers actually suffering, including Iñigo Mardones suffering with that pit speed penalty on entry, unfortunately taking him out of contention. And then we saw Mike West the same, having that same issue and taking himself out of contention because of that. But nevertheless, I know those cautions probably didn't help you, but they did give you a chance to kind of reset and gather your thoughts. What did you think there as you had a showdown, just a few more laps to go, and you've got this guy, David Strid, who you know very well, who's going to challenge you for the win? Was there any sort of like real strategy where you're thinking, I want to be at a certain place on the track at one particular time or not? Did you think I want to be in the lead turn 3 or I want to be in the lead, turn 2? Did you have any plan there for those last couple of laps?
The plan was on the restart of the last was to get away from James. We didn't know what pace he had. And so it was just do a little bit of a swap draft in there to try and pull a bit of ground and cause a bit of aero push, which worked. So, and from there, it was just good old racing.
Well, good old racing, or however you get it done, whether it's with plan or it's just good old racing. You manage to do it week in and week out, and you make it look easy out there, Graham. But I know you're working your butt off having to adjust the controls out there. Did you have any difficulties this week with the setup? Were you adjusting the weight jacker much? Was it was there much adjusting to do today? Did the tires fall off?
No, it was a pretty solid set this week. It was really good. I just found that in traffic, I sort of chose to run a higher line, which I didn't have to run as much weight jacket in the positive. So I was only running the 2, which gave me enough to sort of cut down on the exit of the turns out of 4 and 2. But yeah, not much adjustment at all. It was really good, solid setup.
Well, it was fun to watch from our standpoint. I've raced the IndyCar there at Auto Club, and I know how tense it can be doing as many of these laps side by side and having people fill in your mirrors. But it looked like you were able to easily handle yourself today again, and it just looks like it doesn't matter who shows up. They just can't seem to get the better of Graham Bunyan. Graham, you're in the championship lead, and you're looking pretty good for season 12 in the championship battle. But anything can happen through this season. If you had to pick somebody in this field who is going to be your championship rival for this season, who could challenge you for that championship, who would you pick?
Look, I'm definitely going to say fellow countryman. Dave. Dave is definitely there. Look, there's some good ones. David Zaleski, Jason Lowe, Howard, they're all there. Every single one of them are there. They're all competition.
Well, as you've said, numbers of them having good finishes this season, but again, just not able to match your pace. Graham, you got Kansas next week and then Watkins Glen. We already know you're looking forward to Watkins Glen. Anything special about Kansas for you, or is it just do the same that you did this week, only better and win again?
Look, no. All I can pray for at Kansas is a high line run. I love a Kansas setup where it starts off low and then you have to finish off high. But yeah, no, it should be good, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, of course, subject to whatever setup they make on Saturday morning. Graham has no idea, and he has to adjust just the same as every other driver. But Graham, extremely experienced in other forms of racing on iRacing, and does a lot of Indy Fix style races, so used to adapting. Hey, Graham, it's great having you in the series and showing up with your A game every week. I feel like I say that every week, but it's true. And every week you go out there and you prove it yet again. You're a true gem in the Indy cars, one of the elite drivers, and it's great to have a champion like yourself representing the US IndyCar League so well. Thank you so much, Graham.
Yeah, no worries, and thank you for your support and everything you do. You do an awesome job, and everybody else does. And thanks to StickQuik, got to thank them.
Of course. Well, yes, I think they do international shipping. So if you're like Graham racing from Australia, I'm sure you can get your StickQuiks arriving in the mail, in the post in just a couple of weeks. So head on over to StickQuik.com. Appreciate the plug, Graham, and good luck with the rest of your season, bud.
Thank you.
So that's going to do it for us here on Race Day Sunday for the US IndyCar League. It was another fantastic race. We saw Graham Bunyan and David Strid pretty much battling it out through most of this one. We saw Iñigo Mardones make his name known right up there as a drafting master as well. What will we see next week at Kansas? That is why you should tune in to find out. It could be anybody. So we'll see you again next week at the same time. On behalf of myself, Trevor Greenfield, VirtualRacing.Network, pleasure to have you joining us over in the YouTube chat room. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You can chat with us during the race, and then also you'll get notified of all of our upcoming races and a full slate of programming each week coming to you here on VirtualRacing.Network, including the now the official iRacing IndyCar Fix series, and then also the IMSA Haggerty series as well being added to our lineup, as well as the Prime Meridian Racing League coming up in October with Season 2. They're a great other IndyCar league that you should get hooked up with if you're into that kind of thing. They race Wednesdays about midday if you're in the United States, and it's perfect for East Coasters. But then also, we do the last IndyCar iRacing Series race is going to be coming up on the network here in just a couple of weeks, so you'll want to stay tuned for that as well. Next week, we'll see you at Kansas. On behalf of everybody, as I mentioned earlier, proud to have you with us, and we'll see you again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and until then, bye-bye, everybody.